Welcome to the Good Business Dufferin podcast, hosted by the Dufferin Board of Trade through our social enterprise, the Dufferin Biz Hub. Our podcast is based on our belief that small businesses have the power to drive positive change in our community. Whether you're looking to grow your business, strengthen our community, or hopefully both, we've got you covered. Hello, I'm Diana Morris, Executive Director of the Dufferin Board of Trade and the Dufferin Biz Hub. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of the Good Business podcast. Today's episode is all about the power of storytelling in business, how the right narrative through video and photography can transform your audience into loyal fans. I'm excited to welcome Miranda O'Connor, CEO of The Art of Storytelling. With over 15 years in communications and production, Miranda leads her team in creating compelling visual stories for their clients. In this episode, we'll explore how storytelling can help your business grow, learn tips for using video and photography to engage your audience, and discover how partnering with professionals like The Art of Storytelling can elevate your brand. So let's dive in. Miranda, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Diana.
We'd like to start by having you tell us a bit about yourself and The Art of Storytelling and how it came to be.
Okay, so The Art of Storytelling is, it's a husband and wife team. So my husband is my business partner, and we've been in business together for many, many years. We first started doing graphic design, and then we started to do website development and website hosting. So we ran a web hosting and development company for many years. And then he got a bit more interested in doing photography. So we used to hire photographers to come and work for us to do creating these websites. And when he got interested in photography, he kind of got all in. And then the photography eventually led to video production, because this was like when video was becoming more consumer friendly and you were able to buy cameras that were digital cameras. So he was really an early adopter of the digital technology. And really, he is the creative behind the business. So I only take about 50% credit for the business. My role is to run the business, manage the clients, manage the projects, and he is left to do all the creativity. So what you actually see is mostly his side of the work.
So behind the scenes is incredibly important too. Like that's, I'm glad it's a 50-50 that way. So that your skill in driving the business forward and James' talent, it's a great combination. You must have encountered a lot of really exciting business stories in your career. Can you tell us about a couple memorable stories that clients you've worked with?
Yeah, I think, almost all of the businesses that we've worked with and the organizations, all of their stories are amazing. And, it could be the smallest little nonprofit, and it could be the biggest energy company internationally. But they're all very interesting. And you learn so much by going and interviewing and talking to the owners, the employees, and really trying to learn, like, what are they about and what is this organization about? So I wouldn't say that any of these stories are more important than the others. I know James would say that he is really into his sports. He really enjoyed when he was working with Olympians and going to like the World Cup in Germany. So he's really into that kind of like athletic filming. But for me, I think what I really enjoyed was when we worked on large energy construction projects in Port of Spain and Trinidad. So we were able to work for many years with some of these international energy companies like BP, and we were able to document for them the story of the construction of some of these amazing one-of-a-kind natural gas platforms that are offshore. So we spent months, like 18 months, documenting the construction. I can talk to construction energy people about different types of natural gas platforms because we spent so much time doing it. And we worked in a lot of energy industries when we lived in Trinidad. But I think, equally as important and rewarding is telling the stories of really small businesses, because it makes such a huge impact to them when they get a nice professional video that they can share and that they're really proud of, because they find it hard to talk about themselves in the right way. And, we come in and we help them, and they're always so grateful because they now have this amazing piece of content. Similarly with not-for-profits, even though not-for-profits don't always have the biggest budget, we recently worked with a women's shelter, and, the communications person struggled to get some budget from her boss. And she said, no, this is really going to help in our fundraising and in our campaign. And she was able to generate tens of thousands of dollars from a small investment compared to what she was able to generate. And she said, she puts most of it she puts down to having this compelling, engaging, emotional story. She got some of the biggest donations that she's ever received, and she was able to bring back donors who had stopped donating on a regular basis. So that's like super rewarding, and it's great to see that we have that kind of impact that is measurable. Because sometimes in the work we do, it's not really easy to measure, okay, what impact do you make? So I don't like when people ask me, what impact do you make? What kind of metrics do you have for these productions? Because our productions don't always translate into sales, right? Because we're not always trying to sell something. We're not advertising, right? We are doing storytelling and like public relations and educating the community on what our clients do. So it's nice when someone is able to share something that they can say, look, this is measurable, these are the results, and this has been very successful for us.
That's amazing. What a rewarding part of your job to be able to make that kind of impact for a nonprofit. Obviously, you are very passionate about businesses and nonprofits needing to tell their story. Can you tell us why that you believe that's such an important tool?
I think the storytelling, videos in particular, and photography, because it's really the same kind of thing. It's so much more engaging. And it is what is going to build the know, like, and trust factors. So advertising does not do that. And that's why I really like that we stay away from advertising, and we're more about engage with the client and help them to connect with their customers by helping them to express themselves in a way that is interesting, educating, and creates that emotional connection. Because when we go in and we help someone tell their story, we engage with that person on a deep level. We ask them lots of questions and we really get to know them. And then we come back and we listen to what they said and we pull out the best parts that we think the public will find interesting and really motivating. And that is what creates that connection. And that's why people think, okay, I can trust this company. I can go and, give them my money and get their services because I listen to what they're about. I know what their mission and their vision is. And I like and I trust them.
Oh, I love that. I don't know if I would have really differentiated advertising and storytelling as so vastly different, but clearly
Absolutely.
they are. So that's super great information. Really makes you think about the fact that you're not pushing a product or a service, you're telling a story about it. And I love that difference.
Yeah. And I think that's what works more in the long run, because advertising is always like quick, how many sales can we get from this? And then you want to measure the metrics. But, storytelling and just that kind of building of relationships, that's a long game. And that's really building your reputation.
So where do you start? Where does a small business or nonprofit start?
They have to start, first of all, looking into their own organization and deciding, like, what is our story that we want to tell? It's very difficult to work with small businesses because it's usually one person and their brain is going a million miles an hour and they have way too many things that they're trying to think about. And they think very deeply about what they're doing with their business and what they want to achieve and what they want to talk about. But it's not always easy to pull that story out. So they need to look inside and really, it would help if they had some kind of communications plan or even just vision and mission and maybe some values, something to start with that is going to differentiate them from their competition.
That's awesome. That really makes sense to sort of know yourself, know your business, what you stand for, where you want to go, and then you can help tell that story. Mm-hmm. So how do you do that? How do you ensure that your client stories are authentic and you get the details out of them?
Yeah. So it's always authentic because we don't put words in their mouth. So our approach is always interview-based, interview style. I say always, but we obviously have a lot of clients that we script and they do scripted pieces. But for small businesses or businesses that want to tell their story in a storytelling manner, the interview style would be the best way to go. And Sorry, what was what question were we on?
How do you get that story?
Yeah.
Business, I know a lot of entrepreneurs, we work with hundreds of entrepreneurs, and some of them don't want to give kudos to themselves. And how do you pull that out?
Yes. When they don't want to talk about themselves, I often advise them to, let's look for some other stakeholders, okay? So it doesn't always have to be the CEO who's going to tell the story of this company. We can talk to the employees. We can talk to the community members, right? Because often small businesses, especially in Dufferin, everyone gives to some organization. So I can go and talk to someone from a different organization and say, okay, let's talk about how this company has sponsored you and how that has, your values have been aligned with that. So it's really to look at a broad range of stakeholders, employees, clients, community that you contribute to. So there are different people that will help to tell your story. And that actually is very valuable because you get that outside perspective and you don't just have the CEO or the manager trying to explain themselves.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you. So I think there's a lot of businesses out there who've never tried professional videography and are maybe scared. So can you walk us through what a timeline? So you said the first step they need to do is identify themselves, what they want. But what are the rest of the steps in that process?
Yeah. So the actual timeline, and I say this often to my clients all the time when I have a first-time client, it usually takes, I would say typical projects take 6 weeks. And the first week or two is really just figuring out what the client needs to talk about, what are the key messages, what are we going to use as the questions, who are we going to talk to, let's figure out who all the possible interviewees can be. And then once we get that figured out and we get a schedule, then we need to look at the approach. And the approach that we usually favor would be an interview style approach. But some companies might do better with something that is scripted. And then from there, we schedule the shoots. We plan all the days. We plan a schedule for each day. And after the filming, we get into the editing. And most of the work really happens in the post-production. And we'll go through a first draft. A first draft will be very rough. Sometimes the clients, they go, no, this doesn't look so good, but it's very rough. So I do a lot of support calls and messages with clients just to explain, look, this is the stage that we're in. It looks a bit rough. It sounds a bit rough, but we just want to get what's the actual story. These are the different sound bites that we have selected that we think sound like your story. What do you think? And then we work on those sound bites until we're all happy with that. And then we start to put on the other layers. So that would be the B-roll and the color correcting and the audio correcting and the music and the subtitles. And it just keeps going through in stages, at least 3 rounds of revision. And then we come to the final. So that's why I say it takes about 6 weeks, because it usually takes a client about 2 weeks to get organized when they say, let's do this. And then we film, and then we do a lot of back and forth in the editing. And the final thing that we do is the handover meeting. And the handover meeting will explain to the client, these are all the different files that you're receiving. Because for every project, they get multiple files. And they say, why do we need multiple files? We just ordered one video. Well, we ordered one video. Maybe it was a 3-minute video and you're going to put that on your website, but you also need some short versions for your social media. You might need some vertical versions for your Instagram or your Facebook stories. So we give them different files that are set up for different platforms. And then we also give them a separate file, which would be the captions, the closed captioning. So the SRT file. So we do our last handover meeting where I explain to them, these are all the different files. This is how you use them on these different platforms. And then if they need any other support, maybe setting up YouTube or Vimeo, we will do that with them as well.
That's amazing. And we've worked with you in the past on many projects, and you haven't just handed the files. You've worked with our comms department to let them know what to do with the files, which files are on which platform, how to use the reels, how to maximize all of that. And that's been amazing. But what about the small businesses, the small nonprofits that just aren't quite ready or maybe feel overwhelmed by all the types of files you just said and all that stuff?
Yeah.
How do they get started and do it on a simpler, maybe starting to work themselves up kind of way?
I think they need to just start, and they need to just start with their phones, and they need to get comfortable deciding what their key messages are and what do they want to say, because they need to do a few trials first and say, okay, if I put myself out there and use my face and either put like video and or photo, whatever, do we get more engagement when we put a face of the CEO or the business owner telling her own story? Does that give us more engagement on social media than if we just put up like a photo of our product, or worse yet, a stock photo of something else that has nothing personal going on? So I think they just need to give it a start. There's nothing wrong with using your phone to do social media. It's perfectly fine. But when they're ready to do something more professional for different purposes, obviously, if you need to have something that is on your website that is really professional, or if you need to present something, then you need a professional video.
So if they're just starting out and using your site, the cell phone is perfectly fine. Is there anything you would recommend? It is overwhelming for someone just starting out. There's so many platforms. So would you recommend any particular platform that they use over another, or any tools?
I think they have to choose which platform their audience is going to be on. If I have a potential client come and say, hey, I want to do everything, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, website, like YouTube, everything. That's like a red flag that they don't actually have any plan on what they're going to do with their content, because you can't be everywhere at the same time. And there's really no point to that, because you're not going to see messages and comments if you're trying to monitor 5 platforms, and a small business doesn't have time to do that anyway. Yeah. So they need to have a plan, and they need to choose one platform and just try and work that and see how that goes.
So you're probably suggesting that they figure out their target audience first, and then research which type of social media that target audience is using, and then cater things to that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I know you're a big fan of Reels. So do you find that it's better to take a longer video, like you'd mentioned, a 3-minute video, and then chop it down into Reels? Is that usually your advice?
Oh yeah, definitely. So we make Reels for clients when we do, like, we would have lots of footage from a 3-minute video, and we can make that into Reels, usually taking out the interview parts. So we'll take out those talking heads, and we'll just have like all of these amazing shots. And it really depends if they have a good social media manager that we can work with, then we can give them these kind of ready-made reels. And then when they post it, they can use the trending audio. So yeah, it kind of depends on how much do they want to do and how much do we want to do, but it works best if they're posting it themselves with trending audio.
Perfect. And so I think you could talk about the catching videos. That's part of what I think they call the hook now, where it gets you right in. So what if someone doesn't have the media manager? How do they get that attention grabbing, that hook into their audience?
Yeah. I think they're going to have to think about that before they do it. Because if you don't have your social media manager and you don't have those like editing skills in-house to do, then maybe you need to sit down and write something and say, okay, this is what my hook is going to be. And then get into it, because often we do interviews and we don't know what the opening first 5-second hook is going to be until the interview is complete, and it's not always going to be the first thing that they say.
Perfect. So that's a good point. So that although the hook is what your end, when it's finished, you start with the hook. It may be in the middle or the end of your video, right? So I think some people are trying to force themselves to start every video, and then it's maybe unnatural, right? Yeah. So I love that. That's perfect. I know you do a lot of, like, you do videography and photography and graphics. So how do you balance everything? I know videography is obviously your key product, but what should a business starting out, should they do a certain amount of photography and just graphics as well? Or
I mean, it totally depends on the business. I don't think I can just say what they should do, but video is going to be the most challenging, and it's the thing that you can get the most wrong. You know, even if you're using your phone, you can like, recording something with bad audio is like definitely going to make your video not work. So I would say definitely start a little bit easier with photography, because you can at least like look at your photos on your phone and say, is this good enough for what I need to do? But video is definitely going to be more challenging.
And I'm sure there's lots of things that people have done wrong in video starting out, and I'm sure you've seen some videos that are wrong. Is there any tips on how to not do that? Like how to avoid, what things we should avoid?
I think if you're doing any video that has talking, you really need to get your audio really good, because there was something I read or saw a long time ago that you can have a really bad visuals, but you have to have really good audio. Otherwise, people won't stay and watch and listen. So even if you had good videos with really bad audio, it doesn't work as well. So audio is really important. The other thing that people often do wrong is they don't know how to use the closed captioning options. So, and I saw one yesterday with one of my clients where they posted one of the files that had the captions already embedded into the video, because we give them an embedded version because sometimes you just need that. But they posted that on LinkedIn, and then they didn't turn off the LinkedIn captions.
There was a double.
So there's 2 layers of captions going on. So when you see that, don't blame the videographer. Blame the person who posted it, because they didn't check all their boxes properly.
That's interesting. So I didn't realize that LinkedIn had an automatic caption option right in it. Do you know if their social media has that as well?
Yeah,
or?
LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm not sure about Instagram right now because they change things often. But Instagram, we usually give people the embedded captions.
Yeah.
But Facebook and LinkedIn, when you upload a video file, there's a button that says something like auto-generate captions. And if you say no, then it will say upload SRT file. And that's where you upload the caption file that we provide you with. So that's where people make the mistakes, is they upload it, but the video file that they uploaded already has the captions on it.
So it's double captioned.
But
if you were just DIYing it, if you were just starting out and doing it, you could have it automatically do the closed captioning for you.
If you don't know what you're doing and you just want to do something easy and quick, then let the platform do the captions for you.
Yeah. You think it's quite important to have captioning wherever you can?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Most video people watch with the audio off.
Without sound. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. So that's great to know. Is there anything you have on that? I know you've been incredibly busy. You're all over the place, all over the world doing things. Is there anything you want to share? Anything you've done recently that's been amazing?
Yeah. So anyone who knows me and knows what I've been up to recently, I have been working with a client that we worked with video first. And so what I like about what I do is that sometimes the video clients grow into other kind of clients. And we have quite a few clients that have done that, where they have some kind of special project and they say, okay, can you guys also do this? And it's something that if I can take on, I will, because it's nice to work with the same client and really, give them as much as you can. So I have been working with a client in Italy, and which has now opened up a whole new world of marketing and communications for me, because we were working a lot of influencer contests. So I've started working with influencers, which I never thought I would want to do, because, people have a kind of a love-hate relationship with influencers. But we worked with a lot of influencers, and then we were able to choose the best ones to take on a tour to Italy. And what was really interesting for me is that, all the experience that I've had with so many clients over so many years, when we were in Italy, we were going to visit the organic olive oil fields and the flour milling companies. And what was good is that, I went with these influencers. A lot of them aren't so into like sustainability or organic growing or anything. They're into food, but they don't always know the backstory of food. And, because I've worked with so many different farms in different county, I was able to go and ask some really intelligent questions to, the olive oil growers, and the influencers were like, oh, this is great. Now I'm getting all of this information. And even the journalists that were there. So I think that's like one of the benefits of the job, is that you see things repeat across industries. And once you get familiar with one industry, you kind of understand how that repeats with other. Yeah, I was able to really have some interesting conversations with farmers in Italy based on the work that I've done here in Dufferin County.
That's amazing. I love how you can bring that home. And as a farmer, I just love the connection.
I thought you would like that.
Yeah, advocating that food comes from farms.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. Yeah. Awesome. Well, we're running out of time today, but is there any last thoughts you want to leave, any advice for a business owner to get started in this?
I think they just have to get brave. I think bravery is what they need to get over themselves. And if we come and do the job, we make it easy for you. You can try and do it yourself. Could be challenging, and you probably will not enjoy it. But it's a good process to go through.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Miranda. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for
It was
having me.
great conversation, excellent storytelling. I really appreciate that. To our viewers, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Good Business Podcast. Don't forget to like and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and keep doing good business because good business is good for everyone.